And welcome back, everyone. The moment you have all been waiting for as we kick off the spring split of the PCS 2022. It is going to be PSG Talon versus Beyond Gaming. Of course, the big rivalry that has now been established. Hey, everybody, I'm Pyrotechnics. He is Clement. And, of course, our wonderful sponsors you can see down at the bottom of your screen are, in fact, CTBC Bank and Caliber. Thank you for making the PCS possible, and especially this upcoming matchup, because, Clement, if there's one thing I know about this region after a summer and now into the spring, it's these two teams are the ones that are always on everyone's lips when we're talking about this region.
They have battled each other starting all the way from spring finals to summer finals, and then going forward, they were our two representatives at Worlds as well. So these two teams have really illustrated the story of the PCS in the year of 2021, and now in 2022, after a lot of roster moves, we still have to see if they can still stand atop of this league and still keep all of the spoils of war to themselves. Because on one end, you have Beyond Gaming. Malin, unfortunately, not on the roster anymore. He was actually their highest ranked player at Worlds. I don't know if people know that, but I was there in Iceland with them. And also, of course, Dago, now starting over Uzi on BLG. So he's also moved up to the major leagues as well. On the other hand, for PSG, no longer do you have the River Maple duo anymore, instead replaced by Juhan and Bay coming over from NS Challengers to see if they can fill those shoes.
Yeah, it's going to be some big shoes to fill for sure, but the rest of the roster intact. Hanabi in the top lane, Unified and Kaiwing rounding out the roster as well. And of course, in my not so humble opinion, the best bot lane in this region by far. Hanabi also, I think he silenced a lot of haters at Worlds. He really stepped up to the plate. And of course, PSG, they also picked up another top laner, but he's the one starting here in the spring split.
It was pretty crazy to see Hanabi actually being selected as the best player of the top lane coming out of Group C at Worlds. that Group C was pretty saggy.
Hanabi Worlds buff is pretty real, though.
Yeah, he was absolutely great, especially against the RNG games. So I think he's coming off with very high confidence. And now that he's basically moved up the ladder in terms of veterancy on the team, we might be seeing a little bit more emphasis on his lane. But overall, the big question is, can the Korean duo fill what River and Maple left behind, which is a 52% kill share hole left on the team? As we now move over to Beyond Gaming, the big changes here are in the mid lane and in the AD carry position, as we have Minji, previously from Berjaya Dragon, coming over, and then Wako from Boom Esports.
Yeah, you want to talk about big shoes to fill. Wako's definitely got to step into those of Doggo right now, and that can never be easy. But I think looking at all of the bot lane talent that was known and established across the board in the PCS, Wako is probably the best bet for Beyond Gaming to have gone with. He was very serviceable. He had pop-off moments. Speaking of, he had a decent support in Pop, but now he gets to play alongside Kino, who is an incredible support player. I think this bot lane definitely has big pop-off potential. Minji on Berjaya Dragon certainly wasn't the worst element they had. And pair that with a mid lane, with a jungler of Husha, who had a real standout performance. I think this Mega Bank Beyond Gaming squad still has a lot of power in their punches.
They definitely still have the, I would say, in the top 4 range, but we also have to look at how their playstyle is going to shape up, because in the past, they were very reliant on Doggo and his Aphelios to kind of carry them through tough situations. Right now, I feel like they have kind of a different setup. Minji is not going to play control mages to the level that Mawan is going to bring out, so I think that's the biggest worry for me. Though Wako, as you have mentioned, still carrying over 30% of his team damage on Boom Esports. So Wako, I think he can fill in for Doggo quite well, but the question is, can they maintain the same sort of team fight style now that Minji is more of an assassin player coming onto the roster?
Yeah, that's the question mark. But speaking of, I'm really curious to see how PSG's Korean mid-jungle duo does, because clearly they play well together. They have been playing together, but I'm curious to see how well they slot into this. We've been asking that question since they got signed back in December, and we are finally going to get an answer. Taking a look at the picks and bans, there are a lot of assassins actually banned out. I mean, the Zoe, of course, Diana as well, but PSG will take the opportunity to grab the quick Aphelios. It's going to be matched by the Jinx for Wako, as the Zeri had been banned away by them, but also a lot of top lane bans, really respecting the Hanabi Gwen, a champion that he found quite a lot of success on.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that everyone remembers from Worlds. Just the Gwen in the bottom lane going 1v2 against RNG's bot lane, cutting them to snippets. In the meantime, Beyond Gaming, they are going to hold back on the Jinx answer, which has been the kind of go-to answer that we have seen the entire time. This time, not going to pair it with the Nautilus, going to give over the Thresh most likely, but selecting for themselves the best jungler of the meta. Xin Zhao right now, he has the right of way. You can't really contest him in any of the heralds, and getting that strong jungle pick does set up Minji to go for picks that might not shove the lane as well later down the line.
Yeah, I think it gives Beyond a little bit of opportunity. And again, playing to the strengths of where their strongest players are, right? Like, Husha is definitely a jungler that we like to talk up for a reason. Giving him a strong champion like the Xin Zhao, certainly going to open Beyond up to be able to making a lot of plays. PSG will round out their bottom lane, which also plays to their strengths. Again, Unified and Kaiwing, this is the strongest core duo that we really have here in the PCS. And we'll have to see what they rounded out with. They had already hovered the Lee Sin for Juhan. Makes sense here, given the fact that they're paired up against the likes of the Xin, another highly contested champion. We'll see what they can get done.
We really see an ultra-flexible core coming out from PSG. You can play this with anything, essentially. The Thresh provides great escape for the Aphelios, and Lee Sin has both engage and disengage potential. So I feel like they have really shown nothing so far in this blue side draft. It's very difficult to predict what direction they're going to go for. Our predictions generally for PSG this season with Bey and Juhan, they were, to be frank, not the main carries of their team, and their damage numbers were in the low 20 marks. So what we expect out of these two players is more of a team fight focused sort of style. They're not really going to be the early game focuses so much, and we generally expect PSG to slow down a little bit. The biggest question is, can they still maintain that sort of three-man hit squad that they had with Kaiwing and River and Maple in the past? Whether Juhan and Bey are going to operate that way is a big question mark. We could be seeing brand new, and it might not be the same, but it might not also be worse than what we had in the past.
Yeah, I mean, clearly PSG does their homework, looking for the scouting. We know that this is a team and an organization that aims to build for the long term, and they also prioritize keeping their two, their mid-jungle duo together when they brought them over here, because they could have started Kana, now Pretender, but they ended up loaning him out to Frank Esports instead, giving him some experience on the Rift while they develop these two Korean challenger players as well, and we'll have to see how it all shakes out. So going into the ban phase 2, of course, we saw the Gragas, the Orianna taking out the board, some targets at Bey and potentially Nabi there. Also, another top and bottom kind of matchup there for PSG by getting rid of the Jace, also the Nautilus. As you mentioned, another big priority pick in the support. So Hino's going to have to dig a little bit deeper here this time around. The Set is a champion that's been making some rounds on a couple of different roles, actually, although I feel like this is going to be the support, though.
Yeah, it does feel very much like a Kino champion coming in here. Kino has always been known as sort of the engage first support. He didn't really play Enchanters at World while Yumi was all the rage, and I don't think he's going to be switching over towards Enchanters even on Season 12. So that does kind of signal that Beyond Gaming with Kino are likely going to be playing more of a reset catch comp with what they have right now. They have the Akali, they have the Set. If they grab one target, they can get the reset and get that 25% total attack speed for Jinx to kind of mow through the rest of the composition. On the other hand, PSG are playing a much more defensive status. You do see those barrels that are going to dissuade Xin Zhao for just jumping in. You are going to see potentially the Everfrost from this Rise, and as we were saying, this does look like it to much more be a very slow-paced, a very measured sort of teamfight composition.
Absolutely. For Beyond Gaming as well, the other thing that the Set pick does is it opens up the top lane counter pick, and A couple of hovers there looking for some tanks, but Liang at the end of the day will opt into the Tryndamere. Now we could obviously see the Akali swap up top, but I do feel like that's much more of a Minji champion. And now I wonder how Hanabi will handle. I mean, one thing Hanabi certainly is no slouch at is playing to a weak side, but as you mentioned, barrels are a whole thing too, so it could be dissuading Liang just a little bit. There will be a teleport advantage, of course, given the fact that we do have the Ghost and Flash top summoners here on the Tryndamere. So, you know, it's curious. I think Beyond definitely have an interesting draft for themselves, and I like to see that the coaching staff's definitely not let up on the gas pedal for either of these teams, really.
I do want to mention there's a pretty strong possibility that we see the Tryndamere mid instead. Akali mid is very, very low impact. You can't do anything early game. And I just want to mention, we did see Leon fill in for Mawan in that mid lane position at Worlds.
It's possible. It's a good point. I'm really waiting with bated breath to see like how it actually rolls out. But I do feel like it plays to Minji's strengths at least a little bit better. So that's why I think it's going mid.
Yeah,
that's possible.
That's also a good point to mention. And of course, Tryndamere, in terms of his just laning phase and kill threat, he does get a bit better in the top lane because you have that long lane to chase people down. And as we have seen, a lot of Tryndameres these days are not going to go for the teleport. They're just going to go for the Ghost and try to get early kills in lane itself. You don't really need that TP if your whole role is just as a side lane split pusher.
I really think what Beyond Gaming have drafted here is like a more exciting comp, right? They're giving themselves opportunities to make these big flashy plays, whereas PSG, as you mentioned, they are playing more defensively, and possibly just because they want to really test the waters out here with their new mid-jungle duo. We'll have to find out if this is a trend or just a new playstyle adaptation, given the fact that they have two new players in core roles, or if it's just something completely different. We'll find out, but this is our match of the week. This is our big matchup. Storied rivalry now. Beyond Gaming, they were the newcomers, the new kids on the block last year, and they made quite the splash. Now they are the experienced squad, but PSG as well. Back-to-back champions, returning champions, whatever you want to call them. They have been the number one in the PCS for a while, and we'll see if they can continue that legacy. It would be a great start here to get a win against their rivals in Beyond Gaming. Let's see if they can do it.
Taking a look at the Keystone Runes here, we do have to mention the changes to lethal tempo this season. You don't have to wait 1.5 seconds for it to actually proc. You can stack it 90% for melee champions. This is the reason you're seeing a lot of Jaxes, a lot of Tryndameres coming back into the meta, and we have it right here for Liang into the top side. So it will be that top side Tryndamere. It will be that Ghost being selected. So a kill lane already being drafted up here against Hanabi. And we're going to have to see how Hanabi can weather this storm. Traditionally, Hanabi has had a very easy time against Liang. Let's see if Liang has upped his game here in Season 12.
Yeah, I want to keep an eye on the top side, but also always want to keep an eye on the bottom. And, well, I guess we are starting off the top because Liang was already right there next to Hanabi. But, you know, Gangplank definitely a champion that can sustain through a lot. He also has the Grasp of the Undying. Of course, no surprises, bog standard on that one. Yeah, we'll have to find out. I do think some of this could hinge a little bit on some of the jungle attention that could get paid up there, even though top isn't as prioritized these days as it is in the bottom. Juhan has an opportunity to get up early. Usha, he could get off to a good start as well. But of course, their roots, they should take them down south a little bit earlier rather than later.
Yeah, and talking about the bottom lane here from Kino and Wako, this is a lane where you don't really expect the Jinx and Set to be able to get a lot of damage in early on. You are playing a melee versus double range sort of setup. So I actually see PSG as kind of letting them push this one in. So we do have Lee Sin coming in from the top side as well, and that could be just a setup for a gank. Or otherwise, I would really rate that Set and Jinx as a kill lane. It's not really a lane that shines until you get both of those ultimates online.
Yeah, that might open up the opportunities, but for right now, you're right. I think it's going to be a bit more of a farm fest, as you can see both supports roaming to get a little bit of wardage in just right now. And if there is going to be any early action, it'll probably be driven by either Husha or Juhan, who is going in here for his Krug camp, going to be spotted out by the Beyond Gaming ward. So Husha has that information to kick things off. And I think we probably are going to get ready to settle into a little bit of a chill early game. You know, we can put those lo-fi hip-hop beats on and just relax.
Yeah, there's nothing much for Beyond Gaming to do in both of their solo lanes at this point. Ryze is just going to have an easy time against Akali, no ultimate, and top lane, very difficult to go up against a GP early levels. Liang is kind of just waiting for that potential of misstep that Hanabi shows. You have to be really careful when Tryndamere is full rage, but if you can do what Hanabi is doing and just forcing him to use that rage bar over and over again to heal himself up, Leon doesn't really have an opportunity for that all in.
No, you're right. Denying him the chance to really make it happen is going to be all the difference maker, right? Like a Tryndamere that can't really get in and do much is a Tryndamere that's not really going to be all that useful, to be honest. So Hanabi continuing to try and deny him as much as possible in this one, getting off to a healthy CS lead as Husha makes his way forward. I wonder if he will be coming in for a little bit of a play, but pre-6 Xin Zhao Gangsei, I'm not 100% sold on right now, especially as Hanabi does know how to make a getaway. You mentioned he has an easier time against the likes of Liang. I mean, Hanabi, again, he's got an easy time in a lot of lanes. Like, even when he loses, he always manages to do it relatively graceful. There's a lot of upside for that player.
Yeah, and that's why Hanabi has been around in the league and upper echelon for so long. It's because even though his role is very, very low resources and he's a weak side top laner for sure, in the PCS, he can actually play fighters and do relatively well. In fact,
and at Worlds, apparently.
That's true, you know, and Hanabi has been known to say this, is like, yes, I do play weak side, but I actually feel more comfortable on fighters compared to tanks. That's kind of a, you know, I think sometimes that's a very awkward situation to be in some metas, but for the PCS, for the level of play in this region, and for the previous Worlds, it hasn't been an issue.
That's true. So far, so good for Hanabi, continuing his own trend here, and he is stacking up that CS comparative. But as we once again pan down to the bot, we see that one staying pretty stable. In the mid lane, you did talk a little bit about how this Akali just doesn't have nearly as much impact as you would like, but it does seem like a Minji comfort champion. How much of an impact do you think he's going to be able to have once he gets that level 6 mark versus Bay?
I'll be honest, I don't think he's going to be able to accomplish much, especially in the team fighting phase. Especially in the laning phase, but it's all about the team fights. The reason you get Minji on your roster is because of his team fighting. We have seen so many ridiculous team fights from Berjaya where they have no business winning, and Minji just finds a pick out of nowhere, and the game's really just basically over.
A bit of a dark horse team last summer, Berjaya Dragons, and we see kind of a lot of the players that were on that roster scattered about in the PCS, and there's always the seeds of those chaotic fights. Minji definitely a big part of that. I am excited to see what he can do with this squad because, well, you know, all eyes are going to be on Wako trying to fill Doggo's shoes. Minji also, you know, has some big shoes to fill in the form of Maoan, so we'll see if he's able to do it. Speaking of shoes, he does actually start off on those boots, so definitely looking for a little bit more impact later on in the game. And it's the Ward Wars, Clement. It's all about denying vision in this stage of the game. I'm wondering when we are going to get First Blood. I feel like it's going to be like a 10-minute one.
It's going to be very, very slow at this pace. I don't think Beyond Gaming, even though they want to get those skirmishes in, they want to find a team fight, they have to consider so many factors. Hanabi is going to be able to support the rest of the team with that cannon barrage, so it's very difficult for Beyond Gaming to do anything. The bot lane, unless they can find a kill, it's kind of a lane that's not going to push well against Aphelios. So I feel like basically it's PSG. If they hold steady across all 3 lanes and give no opportunities to Beyond Gaming, they can kind of dictate the tempo. And for Beyond Gaming, if they want to make a move, they have to give up things elsewhere on the map. If they want to congregate and try to go for a gank, or try to go for a 3-man somewhere else on the map, they will have to lose CS for it. That's kind of how I see this situation.
And that does seem to favor PSG for the foreseeable future. So we'll see if Beyond can really break through that. But they don't have a lot of opportunity right now. Also, you know, worth mentioning, because of the way the Tryndamere summoners work, they're always going to be down a teleport in this game. And speaking of teleports, Bay and Juhan are potentially contemplating something, maybe a dive here on this play. They might want to get the action going themselves, but no, they are just going to back away. The threat is there. They give the opportunity for Kaiwing and Unified to take out a couple of these turret plates and force Wako and Kino really under tower. That dark passage there for Unified if he really wanted to push his luck, but he didn't. Staying nice and safe and a very healthy CS lead here.
Yeah, that was a beautiful play coming in from PSG. The greatest part about offense is that the defensive player has to guess where you're going to go. So PSG with Bay and Juhan sitting in the middle of River, they could attack 2 places at the same time. They could go mid and try to snipe Minji with the Realm Orb. They could go bot for the 4v2. And Beyond Gaming have to respect both sides. So essentially PSG get 2 wins in both lanes at the same time. You can see the CS numbers really starting to pull away from their opponents. Bay, Hanabi, and Unify, the 3 players with the most gold on the map right now. And, you know, this is a big pitfall of Beyond Gaming's draft so far, is they have selected themselves weak top side and weak bot side at the same time. And they're both going to end up paying.
Yeah, a bit of a cardinal sin if you can't make up for it in kills, which they're not being given the opportunity to do. I think it was a little telling that Base spent like a good 20 seconds in the river just chilling with Juhan, and then they just and he's still up like a good 15 CS on Minji, who had free farm. Yeah, that's a little bit of a rough start there. We'll see if it keeps working for him. They have been doing a very long setup here in the river, and they look like they were sniffing for Kino. Kaiwing actually does go fishing and finds Husha, but there's no follow-up here. Now there is. Oh, the face breaker. Kino, he's going to go for the showstopper down onto Bay, but it doesn't do a whole lot. As Beyond looking for more. The kickback. Minji getting denied. The Super Mega Death Rocket does not connect, but the first blood will come in, and Minji will secure it, and that does start things off. The hook comes through. They don't really have to worry about that. The flayback and the Realm Warp away. So Beyond will have to settle for the one kill, but first blood is theirs, Clement.
Really nicely done by the side of Beyond Gaming. I felt like Kai was a little bit out of position for that play there. It was very easy for Kino to just cut his escape route off and get that beautiful double two-man facebreaker, set the fight up nicely, and also get Ninja on the board. You know, as an Akali, if you don't find that first kill in your Drake fights, the game gets really hard to play. You have to get ahead as an assassin, and that was the opportunity given to them by PSG. We're going to watch that again, but I just feel like this was a little bit over-aggressive. Kaiwin could definitely be on the side of his teammates, and there would be very little that Beyond Gaming could do, but because of Kaiwin needing to escape from this route, he has to burn his flash, the box goes down, and the team still gets stuck in this quagmire where Minji is able to pick them off on the peripheries, and Beyond Gaming get the chase down with the Wako. Get excited.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the Realm Warp, I feel like that would have been probably a lot worse for PSG. Now, they are still going to be able to secure this Cloud Dragon after just a whole lot of, making eyes at it for a while, but still, the first blood to Beyond, and particularly in the pocket of Minji, is definitely big ups for Beyond Gaming right now, and that was a weird series of events. I mean, Kaiwing kind of uncharacteristically out of position. It almost seemed like he got a bit antsy right there.
Yeah, you could tell that PSG had no way to fight that by the fact that Unified did not even use Moonlight Vigil. Like, he wasn't even given an opportunity. Beyond Gaming were already among their backline. They were so spread out that Unified was just like, I'll just hold on to my ultimate. I can't ult multiple people anyway. So it was a completely positioning loss coming out from the side of PSG, and a very uncharacteristic one by that, as well as now we see Beyond Gaming with that sort of mid-game, mid-lane control is going to start up on this Herald.
Yep. Getting themselves the opportunity and using it. It's all about snowballing those little advantages into something more, the tempo in their favor. This is going to be done in full vision, but PSG know they can't really contest this, so instead they're going to try and put pressure elsewhere on the map and looking to just keep shoving this turret and building up Unified CS lead over the likes of Wako. Kino actually locked a little under tower, but he is a very beefy boy in the set. I don't know if he's beefy enough to stay alive through all of this. He didn't really have a chance to escape, so could be in some trouble. Is going to go for a bit of a facebreaker, kicked back and away. Wako coming to the rescue, and with the Minji teleport force, that's going to be all for now.
Yeah, that's a very good trade for PSG, actually. As we did notice that Hanabi couldn't stay in the lane anymore. Like, if he stayed, he was a dead man. So he just went back, picked up his Triforce. If you look at the itemization on that back, Liang had the tier 2 boots, and that just meant that Hanabi couldn't go out of his own lane. So first tower gold does go over to Beyond Gaming, but PSG are going to equalize that relatively soon after.
Should be. Whoa, Kino playing it really dangerously there, manages the Hex Flash, and that's the other thing. We haven't really talked as much about the Hex Flash opportunity, because it does mean that Kino, even though it's telegraphed, can get up and close some gaps or dodge some skill shots pretty effectively, and Kino already showcasing why this set support pick can have a big impact, because he can use it to set up these fights. So having even more ability there is quite clutch, and Wako trying to be a little bit annoying, stop some backs, a little bit of a zap action on that one. This tower will not fall just yet, so for the time being, Beyond still holding on to a slim gold lead.
Yeah, and you could see the warding from Kaiwing. He was very well aware of the potential for just Set to use that Hex Flash, get over the wall, and be behind them in an instant. So when they push up, they have to keep that River Brush warded at all times. Liang, in the meantime, this is how you play Tryndamere. No TP, you're never going to see your teammates, and you're going to build Hullbreaker. So this item is absolutely bonkers in terms of gold efficiency. If you have no allies close to you, you get extra armor and magic resistance. It lets you get a gold efficiency of 190% at max level.
Whoa.
So it's absolutely crazy as an item, and we are going to see just Beyond Gaming try to shift into this 4-1 sort of mode. They don't want to see Leon. They're just going to keep their distance and try to play 4v4 on the other side.
Now, speaking of, it looks like it's a bit more like 3v3 right now, but the rest of the squad's trying to come to react. Kino going to get a little caught up for just a second. Does have a little bit of a shield, but is there enough of a follow-up here for Beyond Gaming as the Super Mega Death Rocket clips a little bit of the health bar? Wing! They are going to not be able to get out entirely as they took the short range, but Minji gets deleted by Unified on the back half. A lot of tit for tat there. Ends up being 2 for 2.
That was not supposed to happen because PSG had a 4v3 there. Beyond Gaming, knowing the limits of their champions very well, even though the trade does end up a little bit worse because PSG only lose their supporting cast as Minji does go down in that one. Also pretty impressive by Beyond Gaming. I mean, this is a trade I would take all the time. If I'm winning in the top lane with my Tryndamere and Hullbreaker and my 4v4 goes 2v2 all the time with Cannon Barrage being synced into this, I'm pretty happy if I'm Beyond Gaming, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's not entirely wrong here. I do love that this whole thing starts out as a 3v3, and obviously Unified is close stuff, and he just kind of like walks up and just starts casually throwing out just about every type of bullet on there. Minji gets blown up really fast, but they do force a lot of clutch summoner spells as well. That's a whole nother story. So unfortunately, it does look like we have a pause at the moment. So taking stock of the situation, it is a slim gold lead for Beyond Gaming, and right before we get out of this pause screen, we do see that a couple of clutch items have been picked up, the Trinity Force catching my eye on the gangplank as well. So, you know, continues to be a close game, as to be expected from the likes of a PSG Beyond Gaming matchup, Clement.
Yeah, this is starting to turn into a really fun game because as it moves on, really the GP doesn't have much answer against the Tryndamere. The Tryndamere will naturally outscale, and with the Hullbreaker being selected already, it's very hard to outvalue a Hullbreaker Tryndamere that's running Ghost in the top lane. So they are going to have to try and get back with objective play on the other side of the map. But what we just saw was a 4v3 that didn't even go in their favor. So it looks a little bit iffy for PSG at this moment, and I really think they need very good target selection in these future fights. They did open up on Xin Zhao that had a Gore Drinker and was able to use Crescent Guard to deny all the damage from a Cannon Barrage. So I think, you know, in the future, if PSG are looking at these fights, they have to wait on the Cannon Barrage until Beyond Gaming are fully engaged. They can't use Cannon Barrage first and, you know, have kind of Beyond Gaming dance away from the area of effect and then come back in. It has to be absolutely lethal for them, and it puts a lot of pressure on PSG. Like, even though PSG don't look far behind, I do feel like from this point onward, they are going to have to be the ones making the proactive plays, as Beyond Gaming is just going to sit on Tryndamere.
Yeah, it's going to become more and more of a problem as the game goes on. And Tryndamere is definitely one of those champions that you cannot forget about because he will just solo kill your base, you know? It's something that they have to find an answer to. And the answer seems to be, let's force the issue around the Dragon Pit. The problem is, last time they had a numbers advantage, it didn't look so hot. They're actually getting flanked right now, and here we go. Kino looks to turn things around, and they start by taking out Unified. That's not what you want to see as a PSG fan. Super Mega Death Rocket splits the uprights, but Wing is not long for the rift as he tosses down the box. Liang is not going to die thanks to the Undying Rage. And even though they only get 2 on that one, they still have a big swing with the Dragon going over in their favor as well.
Yeah, what a beautiful setup coming in from Beyond Gaming. Once again, Kino just catching PSG sleeping. Like, he was coming in from, I believe he was just coming in from pure vision. Maybe he did Hex Flash over the ward or something, or through the push or something. But that was a very easy engage for PSG. They find the target onto Unified. They blow his summons, they kill him right off the bat, and a very easy transition into the Drake. Let's watch that again, focusing on Kino's path of attack right here. I feel like he just walked up to them. Like, it wasn't really anything special.
You have to respect this. I mean, it's just, he knows exactly what his champion's going to do, and then PSG don't respect it, and he's like, all right, I guess I'm just going to showstopper all of you. And at that point, it's like, cool. Really nice rocket. Obviously, if you're Wako, you're like, man, I really wish I could have gotten one of those guys, but really good of Wing and Juhan to dodge it out. Even so, they still managed to get the kill at the end of the day, managed to take the Drake on top of it. And, you know, fun fact about Kino's name, it is the German word for cinema, and I think it's very appropriate because Kino, the way he's been playing, certainly looks like an action film.
very cinematic entrances both times from Kino here, and
Yeah,
this is
superhero
so
landing.
weird to see from PSG. I do feel like PSG, my biggest worry about this transition to more of a teamfight approach was that PSG are actually not a team fighting team. The way they play was much more tempo oriented in their previous iterations. So I sort of had my misgivings about how well they could pull off more of a 5v5 centric composition. And so far, it just doesn't look like they have the positioning coordination. I feel like Kaiwing has been ultra risky both times, and the way you would play was, I think the way Kaiwing is playing is still as if he was playing with River and Maple.
Yeah, you got to change that up a little bit for sure. Rift Herald's been popped out of its home for the time being, as PSG were hoping to grab that one, but not able to do it before the rest of Beyond arrived, and getting a little testy here. It's got to be you got to be careful if you want to try and tangle with Beyond. They've already shown they're more than capable of winning the fights. The gold game is close, but as you mentioned, it's really all about the tempo swing and all about what these teams can do with their champions, and at the moment Beyond definitely having the edge in that regard. And they're also pushing on multiple lanes. It's turning into a bit of a 1-3-1 push, with the core damage dealers really doing so much work on the Beyond side, and it looks like they've been able to grab just about everything spoils-wise, pushing on top, getting a decent shove on bottom, and of course also having this Rift Herald. You see Kaiwing is sniffing and fishing for something, but you got to be careful not to overcommit. Teleport's already coming into this brush. They will get it. The grab is onto Husha, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, at this point with PSG's deficit, they definitely need prior setup to win these teamfights. They need Beyond Gaming to venture past barrels. They need them to walk into the box. They can't have these abilities used during the chase down. That's already way too late for the fight. And because PSG didn't have position there, they did have to kind of give that Herald up. And the question really is, like, when is PSG actually going to get a chance to set up? Right now, they're not really winning in any of the side lanes, so it looks to me that what PSG are going to have to gamble for is a big Baron play. They have to give up one of those side lanes, just set up on Baron, make it extremely difficult for Beyond Gaming to approach, take the big purple worm, and after you have that buff, you don't have to worry about side lanes anymore because your lanes are going to auto-push with the empowered minions.
Yeah, always a bit of a risk, but it seems like they have been happy to take them. And the question mark is, if it turns into a 5v5, how's it going to look at the end of the day? Using the teleport advantage is probably what PSG should really focus on, too, and getting that set up. Right now, they have the double TP advantage because Minji still has his on cooldown. But I feel like the only way to safely set this up on the Baron play is to catch somebody out, get a collapse going. They're trying up in the top side, but you can already see Minji's wise to it. He backs to the safety of his tower.
Yeah, I believe Juhan was actually spotted there. I'm not sure why, but Minji was able to ping the Lee Sin's position out on the way. Super safe, like you mentioned here. And we do have PSG, I think, shifting more now towards that sort of teamfight setup mode. They have a lot of vision around this Baron, so if they so choose to, they can definitely sack bottom lane and just go full on for Baron and try to get a teamfight going that way. They know their win conditions very well. But in the meantime, Leon is still going to have a field day here against Hanabi. Not much Hanabi can do at this point. Leon is just so damn tanky. Doesn't really care about the pirate whatsoever. And if I'm PSG, the best I could hope for is probably using this leverage with the Drake to force Beyond Gaming to face check into Baron. I feel like that's the go-to play for them at this point.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're on the cusp of getting like a very advantageous dragon, it's almost a little too tempting at that particular point. Beyond do pop the Eye of the Rift Herald though in the mid, and it does look like they want to use this at the very least to gather everyone here. I wonder if they'll use it as a full-on distraction, because you see the turn now goes towards the dragon, which is spawning right now, but that Rift Herald is already dead. I feel like this is not a safe 5v5 by any means. It feels like a waste.
Yeah, that Herald timing was a little bit suspect, but if I'm Beyond Gaming and like PSG have to walk into me, I'm perfectly happy for taking this fight. There's
look at Minji and Leon
from PSG. And look at these flank angles. Like, it's so hard for PSG to actually walk away with this. They basically have to have a perfect engage.
There we go. That's going to be the engage for Beyond. They're the ones that pull the trigger, and oh my goodness, they come up huge, taking down Unified quickly enough. Hanabi will answer back, but it was only onto Kino, and now Juhan isolated from the rest of the pack. Beyond Gaming will be the ones cleaning up 3 for 1. Should be able to easily secure Dragon and might even get a Baron in the mix.
Oof. Yeah, this is, again, another positioning mistake for PSG. Your composition cannot walk into Beyond Gaming. You are not a comp that can go forward and chase down targets like Ninja and like Leon. So this is a complete head-scratcher from me. I feel like PSG, the way they played this, they had to disengage from this. I know it might be like the third Drake, but, you know, just swing over to Baron. Force Beyond Gaming to face check into you. Walking like this right up forward, and Unified unfortunately making a big mistake here, staying in range of Kino, just means that they get completely wiped in this team fight. Look at this setup here. Like, Hanabi has to use his Hanabi has to use his ultimate to engage. Like, that's not how you play a gameplay. You don't want to use your ultimate to engage against a Tryndamere and a Kali comp. They can just move past that cannon barrage so damn easily.
And now things on the side lanes go from bad to worse here for PSG, because instead of getting the Baron and stopping the side push, they now have the Baron against them, and the side push gets twice as bad. So they may have gotten an Infernal Drake, which will help in a 5v5, but they might be in danger of just getting picked apart and collapsed on.
Yeah, this is such a head-scratcher for me, and I feel like this is the symptom of PSG shifting from one style to a very different style, a 5v5 oriented style that, frankly, we didn't really see them play all that much throughout their entirety of summer. So we're going to see how well they can set up these team fights. Flash Wolves systems and PSG, they've never really been that sort of a team. I don't have the highest expectations for them to suddenly be able to go into that mode. But, you know, if Bay and Juhan, oh man.
Oh dear. This is a 1v2. This is a 1v2. Yeah. If Minji actually pulls this off, I don't think he's going to. Oh, he almost did! Oh! I mean, I feel like that just tells you all you need to know about this game. Meanwhile, Leon is, he is full Tryndamere right now. Killing. Yeah. God, yeah. I'm getting solo queue flashbacks, man. I don't miss playing top lane, I'll tell you what.
If you're kind of on the spectrum like me, I feel like Season 12 top lane is great. Like, you have all the excuses to not care about any of your other lanes.
I mean, this is why I play teamfight tactics. I don't want to have to care about any lanes.
That's also true.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm also not a big brain player, so, you know, that's a whole nother story. That's why I'm the Yelly man.
I wanted to say that if PSG, like Bay and Juhan, they want to showcase what they have, their synergy, their magical spark together, this is their opportunity because their team is in a pretty big deficit, and then they 1v2 Minji, and they don't even get a win out of it. So, things are just looking from bad to worse right now. Hanabi has a terrible time against this cannon minion, and now just kind of casually solo kills him.
Yeah.
Like, the barrel does land, but it's not enough to dissuade Leon from just doing a second engage, and this time the barrels don't hit their mark.
You know that whole, like, you know, schoolyard thing, like who would win, like ninjas or pirates? Like, I feel like ninjas usually win, and then, of course, Vikings, the lesser-known variation. Clearly, Vikings win.
Is that what?
I think Tryndamere counts as a Viking. He's, like Olaf is the Viking, but, like, so is Tryndamere. He's kind of like the same vibe. Maybe he's more of, like, maybe he's more of, like, a barbarian, you know? Same deal.
Yeah, I dig it. Same thing, and you know, I just want to mention that Leon is so far ahead. Like he's not even gonna go for the more usual build of the Immortal Shield Bow. He's just going for Gale Force for the for the execution.
All right. The hook comes in. They really didn't want this fight anyway, so Navi kind of caught out a little bit. Does actually go back, and Unified will get a kill on Kino, but again, it's just Kino. Super Mega Death Rocket coming through. The damage from Wako is huge. He flashes the wall as they turn on Minji, but unfortunately, Wako, he's going to get popped down by Juhan. However, it's absolute chaos here beyond, still finding more answers, and a quadra kill from Minji as he goes from point to point to point, and they crack open the base.
I'm so disappointed in you, Minji. You had Lee Sin dead to rights. Go after your Penta. Go chase your glory. The game isn't important. The Penta is what counts, man. Let's go. Come on, Juhan.
He's not going for it.
Try to defend the base. Let's go, Juhan.
He's trying for it, but they are eyes on the prize here, Clement. Beyond Gaming clearly want the Nexus. Juhan, he goes with the Sonic Wave, doesn't connect. It's just going to try to be a thorn on their side, but they want to end it right here, right now, and they will not be denied. 27 minutes in, Beyond take the victory over PSG Talon.
And with that, PSG's record of going 18-0 in regular split has been broken. They were flawless last time around, but this time, pretty disappointing start, I have to be completely honest. I feel like PSG, their positioning in all three of their crucial team fights was really off. And I have to say, it didn't really even come down to the new members of the team. I would say in the first 2 team fights, Kaiwing was in a very weird position, and in the 3rd team fight, Unified just straight up got suplexed by Kino. So
yeah,
it's just very odd situation, and unfortunately it does look like PSG will take some time to actually catch up and find a composition that fits them. On the screen right now, I do want to mention that we do have Mistake coming into a GM role for Beyond Gaming as well. You know, world champion support from Taipei Assassins, now also joining the team.
Yeah, certainly has helped them out already. I mean, Beyond Gaming, honestly, where PSG made errors, where they looked a little iffy, Beyond kind of pushed their limits a little bit. I really liked what we were seeing, especially out of the likes of Kino. Here's that last fight one more time. The backup, the hook from Kaiwing. Wako maybe gets a little bit too hyphy here when he flashes the wall, but you know what? They're all in good fun. And just keep your eyes on Minji, because holy crap, he starts to clean up.
Yeah, he gets 2 kills right off the bat on the start here, and a lot of damage coming in from Jinx as well. I feel like Wako did a really good job to push all that damage through and make sure Minji could clean up the entire fight, so no fault to be found there. But again, if you look at those fights, the main problem that we see over and over again is just the lack of correct positioning coming in from the side of PSG. Hanabi got 1 barrel chain off. He had to run into the fight, essentially. There was no setup time given for the game plank. And I feel like PSG was just way too cavalier with these team fights. They don't have the comp to really challenge Beyond Gaming and chase forward like the way they did.
Yeah, and on top of that, the individual positioning errors were a little bit sus, too. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a game where Unified has been caught out that much, or, like, is unable to position correctly in a team fight. He just kept getting popped left, right, and center. I want to give a lot of credit to Kino for finding those openings and creating them, but sometimes he just straight up walked into the enemy team. You have to respect a set support. He's gonna suplex you no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah, Kaiwing hugging the top side of the river while Kino was in plain view. That was kind of sus. You know, usually you do want your Thresh a little bit further back, so at least there is an escape for Unified. And you know, I do think this is just a symptom of a team that is used to playing tempo, used to always playing forward, and used to being the ones that have the assassins on their team. If you think about Beyond Gaming and how they like to approach the game, it was the Twisted Fate. It was the Akali themselves, or the Silas coming out from Maple. They were the ones that used to do this to the opponent team.
How the
turntables. On the
receiving
end, yep, they can't take their own medicine.
Yeah, I mean, and also, like, but Minji, like, I think he really proved, like, why this Akali is, like, a threat from him, and, like, why his assassins are to be feared, and honestly, why there was a lot of faith being put in him by the side of Beyond. Like, again, the name that everyone was going to be looking at was going to be Wako because he was replacing Doggo, but at the same time, Minji really stepped up in this first game. I want to give him a lot of credit as well. The rest of the roster did exactly what they needed to do. I mean, you know, I don't want to take anything away from Liang. He did Tryndamere things, and that's going to happen, but that's to be expected. Wako maybe a little bit of overhype on a couple positions, but you know, he held on really well when he was getting pushed under tower. Kino had a fantastic game. Overall, Beyond, I think they played not only to their comp but to their new core strengths. And PSG, they're still figuring it out, and we'll see how long it takes them to do that this split.
I'll be honest, I didn't like the Tryndamere pick whatsoever. Like, the entire game, his only function was to tie up the gameplay. That's it. Like,
yeah, but and then solo kill Hanabi, like, when he got fed enough,
I mean, it was enough, but I just don't like Beyond Gaming strategies when they go into game thinking that they can lose all 3 lanes and somehow miraculously come out ahead. Like,
but
they
works!
ran the strategy. I know, they ran it so many times in playoffs until it didn't work. And, you know, like, I don't think it's a sound foundation for the game, but obviously this game, you know, what can you say? It worked out. I would much rather them just have at least a top lane that they can go to in the early game and not have 3 losing lanes. I feel like that is a much sounder strategy, but you know, what can I say? What can I say? At the end of the day, they won. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like, there's plenty of season to go, right? This is only day 1. We'll see if they actually change things up a little bit. And obviously, up against the likes of PSG was a whole other story. And it was kept very close for a very long amount of time until it wasn't. The game started to get out of hand. Big wins for Beyond Gaming, and really kind of just baiting PSG around a couple of objectives. Nicely played overall. Again, I want to give special props to Kino. I think, you know, every single time there was a fight, he was like right on top of Unified, right on top of a priority target. He didn't necessarily have to do much but run forward and press R, but he did it every single time, so, you know, he gets the A.
Yeah, he was very consistent with it, and Minji does get the MVP here. I think it's also very well deserved.
Yeah.
Like, he was doing massive amounts of damage. 92% kill participation on an assassin that was getting pushed in 24/7. That is pretty
everywhere.
ridiculous.
Minji
If you thought
did.
Juhan and Bei were gonna like come in and have a great debut, well, I'm sorry, Minji just rained on that party, 1v2 them in the bottom lane, and congratulations, Beyond Gaming actually, come out ahead here. A very exciting split here as we see the sort of totem pole of the PCS being shaken up.
Yeah, it's going to start to shift a little bit. I mean, and I think like nobody came into this split thinking PSG was going to be as dominant as they once were, just because of what a difference in skill compared to the likes of Maple and River. But at the end of the day, today's results really do show that you can't take anything for granted. Deep Cross Gaming beating J-Team, the old J-Teamers beating the new J-Teamers. Frank Esports coming in with a win up against the likes of Impunity, showing off their strength. Meta Falcon team beating Hurricane. Some of those games definitely really back and forth, and this last one, no exception there, with Beyond Gaming claiming the first victory and, notching a win in their rivalry, especially has to feel good after just losing out on the title last summer.
Yeah, and I do want to say I really like today's games, because if you think about all the matches, we did not have laning phase blowouts. Those were kind of a thing in the previous PCS. It could just be because, our top echelon of players have moved on to major leagues, and, the skill gap has kind of gotten shrunk. But I feel like it gives a really good viewing experience, and I honestly feel like the bottom teams, the used to be bottom teams like Impunity, or the teams that we didn't have high expectations from, Hurricane Gaming, they have also stepped up. So we see a much more level playing field, a lot more chances for upsets, and I'm just happy that we don't have to cast games that the outcome is kind of written in stone at 15 minutes. So
yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Like, it's way better not knowing, and obviously, like, we have 1 day of games down, we have more games to go, and of course, if you missed out, or if you were really hoping to see CTBC flying Oyster, you're going to get your chance tomorrow, as they will take to the Rift first up against the likes of Frank Esports. That's a team that certainly has some high-flying talent. After that, J-Team, of course, will look to redeem themselves a little bit up against the likes of Impunity. PSG looking to do the same against Hurricane Gaming. And then, you talked about Meta Falcon team needing a challenge before we know if they're the real deal. Well, how about Beyond Gaming? That's going to be a real metal tester of a match.
Yeah, and we're going to have a lot of good Akali players in that one. Taco versus Minji. Who's going to get the pick here? Very surprised to actually see like Akali being such a high priority in our league. We have seen her in other leagues, but usually if you get a Jace or something, she doesn't really have a great laning phase.
Tribute to Maple, I think.
Yeah, definitely has been. You need to capitalize on mistakes to make that pick work, but here in the PCS, we have been able to keep the assassin going.
Yeah, I really like that. It's sort of a tradition. Like there will be the meta defined around other leagues, and always a couple of teams that will break it or do their own thing. But the PCS, it kind of makes a habit of breaking the meta and doing their own things, at least on a lane or two. And mid lane definitely seems to be the one for right now. Bot lane, obviously, adhering a little bit more to what we expected. We saw a lot of Jinx today. We saw a Zeri game, and of course, it being banned immediately following. A whole lot of Aphelios. So that is pretty much it. And that is it for our games today. So thank you all so much for watching. We will be back, of course, tomorrow at the same time. Don't go anywhere. Well, maybe go to sleep, but come back tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye.